Hello, I am Kyatric and today I'm making this video for the Construct 2 Academy. The game we are set to do today is a shooting gallery using Kenney.NL assets. You control the game with the mouse and shoot some targets giving you points. There is sounds and musics, and whenever you shoot in the dead center of a target, you have an extra bonus as well as extra time added every 5 targets hit. Only the round targets have the bullseye effect. The ducks only provides 50 points. When the time is up, your full score is displayed and the game invites you to right-click to restart. The score is added to the Skyra Arcade leaderboards. You can download the graphic assets on Kenney.NL website. Kenney is an artist who provides graphics assets as Creative Commons license, which means that you can use pretty much in any shape or form the assets he provides. Go to his website, click on Assets, and look at the shooting gallery elements. You can see a preview of the objects that are provided. Click on the download button and it will provide you an archive.zip that you can save to your disk and extract wherever you want on the hard drive. Another pack of assets, textures and sounds are provided. You can find the link in the description of this video. Those assets are either graphical assets that I've made for the game or sounds that also are provided as Creative Commons. You can find all the URLs for all the assets within the comments of the capex of this project that is provided in the Skyra Arcade. At the very bottom of any page of the Skyra.com website, you do have a free bundle link that you can download as well and get a few assets provided by Skyra. Now, let's set up the project in Construct 2. This is the main part of this project since it's heavy on assets. Open up Construct, make a new project, a new empty project, and open. Hold down the Control key and use your mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. Click on the Project tab, the new project. You can see the size by default is 854 by 480 pixels, and we are going to apply this very same size to the layouts. Go into the Layers tab. For now we only have one. Select Layer 0, rename it as Background, and already we can create up to 4 layers. This is a limit of the free edition, and this is all the layers we will need for our game. For now, be sure to select the background and we will start adding some objects to our projects. Making sure the background is selected, click back on the Projects tab, and you can double click in the Layout area to insert a new object. We will start with a tiled background. Click wherever you want on the screen and click the Load an Image from a File icon. Browse to where you have extracted archive I've did it in this original folder. Go into the PNG folder, install. We want the background wood as our first object. Open. It's now in the image editor. Close, and simply place and stretch on the screen. This background texture is stretched and applied to the same size of our layout and project, and you can see that it's repeating the texture. If you double click in the gray area, you are still allowed to add a new object, and that's what we want for now. This time we want a sprite, and we'll go into the animation frames dialog, right click, import frames from files, and we will want to select both clouds, cloud 1 and cloud 2. Open up. We delete the first frame with the delete key since we don't need it. Click on the default animation, and you can see on the left you have the properties of the animation. Set the speed to 0. This allows us to have this as an image bank instead of playing animation. Whenever a frame is set, the sprite and the instance of the sprite will only display that frame. So by default it's the 0 frame. We want that cloud at a position of 7.5 pixels by 1999, and a comma in between the two. Hold down the control key, drag drop, it creates a new instance. This time the initial frame is going to be set to 1. It's a different cloud. And this one is going to be positioned at 178 150 pixels. Those are positions that I've set up in a previous project and that I know that work. So we are winning some time by applying the very same positions. Double click to insert still a new object, still a sprite. Again, import frames from file, and this time we are going to take the tree oak and tree pine objects. In the same order of ID, delete the first frame and make the animation speed to 0. Our tree object is going to be positioned at 98 by 160 pixels. For now, on this layer, that's all we need. So go back to the Layer tab, select Layer 0, rename it to Grass, and we will start adding new objects. By selecting this layer, we are making sure that we are adding objects only to this layer and not to the previous one. Moreover, to prevent moving the objects or selecting them, as we don't need to move them anymore, just lock the layer background. This way you can see I'm clicking, but I'm not selecting the elements. They are locked, and now I'm only into the grass layer. We will double click to add a new tile background. Open up, and this time go into the archive that I've provided and use grass resized. Open up. It's based on Kenney assets. I've just resized it so that it's a power of 2 texture. Close it. Resize it in height. And let's position it at 0 and 232 pixels, and we want its width to be equal to the size of the screen, which is 854 pixels. As for the height, we can set it to 126. You can notice that this object appears on top of the background layer. The higher in the list the layer is, the closer to us, to the foreground, to the user it is. We still need to add a few elements. I'll put them on the right side. A sprite object. Again, go into the animation dialog and import frames from file. Go back into the original PNG. This time we go into the folder objects, and we are going to use and pick the stick metal outline object. I've used only the outlined objects because I found the contrast made it better looking. Open up, delete the first frame, and we will need to modify the image point and the origin of the object. For now it's in the dead center of the texture. Press the 2 keyboard key on your numeric pad, or right click on the origin and quick assign to bottom. This way it will mean that the X and Y positions of this object will always be at the bottom. Add another image point, and this time we are going to set the Y manually to 18. Click on the animation name, make sure it gets selected, and rename the animation to Iron Stand. Add a new animation, name it Wood Stand. Go into the animation frames dialog, import frames from files, and this time we are going to select the stick wood outline and stick wood fixed outline objects. Open up, delete the first frame, set the origin to the bottom, and right click again to apply to all animation. This means that our second frame is going to have the origin point at the very same position. Add a new image point, 1 again, set it to 18, and again apply to all animation. It will create the image point and position it at the very same position. Select the wood stand animation again and set the speed to 0. We do want again as an image bank. We are going to be able to either display the iron stand animation or the wood stand animation, and still using only a single object. Let's start to rename some of our objects for now. So this is going to be the stand, or rather even target stand. This, the cloud. And this is going to be the tiled grass. And finally, let's go, sprite 2 is renamed as tree, and the tiled background is our wood background. It's always nicer to rename the objects so we can have a better idea of what they are supposed to be and to do. The target stand object needs also an instant variable dir for direction. This way we're going to know in what direction the object is supposed to go. The target stand also needs a behavior. The behavior is the shiny behavior, and it is going to be vertical on a period of 4 but a magnitude of 16. That's what is going to allow us to have this up and down movement. We're still in the grass layer. Add a new object, sprite, click, go into the animations frame dialog, import frames from file, and this time we are going to pick the targets, again the outlined, and open up. Delete the first frame, set the origin to the bottom as well, apply to our animation, and make a new image point that is going to be created in the dead center. For now, that's what we will want, so apply to our animation. Go select the animation name, rename it to target, and change its speed to 0. Add a new animation, name it duck, select it, import frames from files, and this time we are going to use and select the ducks and the outline ducks. Don't select the one with a target. That's all we need. Open, delete the first frame, set the origin to the bottom, apply to all animation, and now let's deal with the collision polygon. You click on the icon, right click, guess the polygon shape. That's about it. That's nice. Let's right click in the area and apply to our animation. In the same as with the image points, for the collision polygon it can be set to all the frames of our animation right away. Let's go back into the target. We'll want to guess the polygon shape again and apply to our animation as well. So far, so good. A last animation we want to add is back. Select it, import frames from files, and this time we are going to use the back target and duck outline back. Open up, delete the frames, set the target as the first one by drag dropping it into our animation. The collision polygon, this time we don't care, but the origin point is going to be set to the top. Select the duck texture, the duck frame, and we will want to flip it and set the origin point on the top as well. This is going to be the back of the target that is being displayed once we have shot them. Click the back animation, make sure the speed is set to 0. Same for the ducks. Same for the target. And we are done. Move it, rename it as target. Now we need to still add another object, double click, make it a sprite, and resize it directly into the image editor. Make it a width and a height of 8. OK. Fill it with some color, the yellow for example. By default, if you hold the control key down and move your mouse wheel, you can zoom in and zoom out like with the layout. And you can see that the collision polygon is set to the boundaries of that object, and that the origin point is in the center. We won't change it. That's all we need. Let's rename this object as bullseye, and we're done with the grass layer. Let's move on to layer 1, rename it as water, and let's drag drop a tree from our objects, and as we are in the water layer, it's making a new instance in the water layer. This time we want the initial frame though to be 1, and we'll set its position to 768 pixels by 248. Double click to add a new object, a tiled background. Open. Go into the graphics I've provided. It's the water resized this time. Open up. Resize. And the position and size are going to be -45, 310, and the size is going to be wider this time than the screen itself, to 1026. Rename it to tiled water, and we will add a behavior to this object. We'll want to add a signy behavior. Close it. We will want to keep it to horizontal, set a period of 4 and a magnitude of 20. Add another. Let's rename to horizontal sign, so we know what this behavior is supposed to be and to do. Horizontal, that's okay. Add another signy, and this time this is going to be the angle signy. Change the movement to angle, change the period to 8, and the magnitude is going of 1. It will add a little smooth movement to this cardboard water of sorts. That is going to be a nice effect, I think. That's it for the water layer. Now let's select our layer 2, rename it to HUD, and this is going to contain a lot of elements. Make sure you have selected the HUD, add a sprite object, open, go back into the original, PNG, stall, and again we take the background wood. This time, as we are going to stretch the sprites, it won't have the same effect as previously, and we can stretch it a lot on purpose so that it will be hard to recognize that it's the very same object. The size is going to be 1657 pixels by 204, and the position is going to be 435.5 by 499, and we rename it as front wood, and this is kind of the counter on which you will be positioned in a shooting gallery with your rifle. Speaking of the rifle, add a new sprite object, open up, go into the HUD, no, it's in the objects, select the rifle, prefer the wood one, and that's all we need to add to our object. Let's rename it rifle right away with only a single F, and position it at 594 pixels X and 461 Y. This is the starting position. By default, it's a visible object. Let's add again a sprite object, open up, Go into the PNG, this time the HUD, no, still not in the store. We are going to take the curtain object. We will set its origin point to be in the top left corner. And we will duplicate the frame, flip it horizontally. The image point will be placed as we want as well. Make sure to set the animation speed to 0. Close up. Rename as curtain. Place it at 0.0. Hold down the Control key. Drag drop. Set the frame, the initial frame, to 1. The position is going to be 154 and 0. This allows us to have curtains on both ends of our screen. Double click, add a sprite, open the curtain rope. And those we are simply going to position. Control key is down, drag dropping to create a new instance. Make sure 216, 216. We want the ropes to be at the same height. For the Y position, it's about what visually works for us. Create a new object, a tiled background. Click, open up, and it's the curtain straight image texture that we are going to use. Set it to 79 pixels of height, 854 of width, and place it at 0, 0. As this is the last object we have created, it appears on top of all the others, and so it's on top of the curtains. Let's add another object, and this time it's going to be a sprite font. Insert, open up, and go into the graphics that I've provided and use the sprite font aka Island Plane. Open up, close it, and we will need to do a bit of modification right now. We will rename to txt score. We'll position to 7 and 7 and 584 by 47. Then the character width is to be 55, character height is going to be 47, and for now that's all we need. Right click, clone the object type, and click again. This takes all the same elements and clone the object type, but makes a new one. As you can see, it created a txt score 2 object. We actually want this to be named txt time, to be positioned at 542 and 7. The size is going to be 302 by 47. The scale is going to be off 0.5, and we want the horizontal alignment to be right. That's it. So we do have two object texts that we can set the text off. Select our txt score, clone it again, and this time we'll rename it as txt final. It's going to be positioned at 26.5 by 281, Its size is going to be 839, 384. We'll change the scale to 0.75, and the hotspot is going to be in the dead center. The text horizontal alignment is going to be center, and the vertical alignment is going to be center as well. And the initial visibility is going to be invisible. That's it for all our text objects that we are going to need. Add a new sprite object. Go into the original PNG HUD and select the crosshair white large. Not the outlined one this time. I feel the simple white one is better. Open up, close, all we need is there. Rename to crosshair without this capital letter, and yeah, for now just set it outside of the layout. Double click, add yet a new sprite, still outside. Import frames from files, go into the graphics I've provided, and we will want to add these 4 elements, the points and the sec. Open up, delete the first frame, be sure that it's in 50, 100, 500 and plus 10. Change the animation speed to 0. Make sure the origin point is in the center. It's all good. We rename to points and add a couple of behaviors. The first one is going to be the bullet, and the second one is going to be the fade behavior. The bullet speed is going to be 100, and we don't want to set the angle. And the fade out for the fade behavior is going to be 0.5. That's all the modifications we need for now. Add a new sprite, open, go back into the original PNG HUD, and nope, not HUD, objects, pick the shot gray large, open up, and name it as shot impact. Again, add the behavior fade to it, and change the fade out time to 0.25. And we need still a couple more elements. Sprite object, open up, this time it's from the HUD for good. The time up, open up, rename to txt time up, set its position to 430 and 53 pixels, and the initial visibility set to invisible. Rename the sprite to curtain rope, just to prevent having some sprite objects that's not really sure what it's doing. And now our last element, our last visual element, import the frames from files. It's the ready and go frames. Drag drop the ready frame so it is the first and the go as the second. The default animation speed needs to be set to 0 as well. Close up. We rename it as txt ready Go. We want to position it at 427 and 181. We will add a couple of instance variables to it. One named ready, which is a boolean, and by default it's false, and the other is named go. It's a boolean as well, and false by default as well. We add a couple of behaviors. We start with the timer behavior as well as the fade behavior. In the fade, we set it as not active at start and 1 of fade out. And we don't want the objects to be destroyed once the fade out has completed. By default, it's visible. And the last elements we need to add to our projects are, double click, an array that we are going to use to set up the correct width of character of our text object, our sprite fonts. We need to add an input that is going to be the mouse. And we need to add a global object to our project. It is the function object. When you insert it, it doesn't have a visual representation into the layout, and it doesn't matter what layer you add it to. As you can see, if we select it, it just has a name and it's a plugin. That's all. We don't have properties to it. It's global to the project. It can be used from whatever layout, whatever layer, and it's not appearing into the layout itself. And finally, also add the audio object, and finally the Skyra arcade object. Let's finish up a few details. Modify the name of the project, shooting gallery. Description, a shooting gallery using Kenney.NL assets, the name of the author, etc. Let's now add sounds by importing sound. Into the archive I've provided, you have an SFX folder you can go into, and you can select the bullseye, reload, shot, and target its sounds. Open up, import. All should be good as long as you are at least in the Windows Vista. All sounds should be directly imported and converted to the formats that are required. If you are under Windows XP, you might need to do some converting of your own. Go into the music, import the music, and I'm using a music that is coming from the Skyra free bundle that you can download. And into the archive, you go into music and select both Matt Oglesby 3 files. It's in OGG and M4A format. Import. OK. And this does conclude the setting up of our project. Here's a quick explanation of how I did some of the assets for this project. I've used a sprite font generator. That is one that you can find into the forums. In the completed add-ons, I've added it to the list of C2 plugins and behaviors lists. Right at the end, in the tools third part tool, and it's a sprite font generator made by Black Hornet, and I've been using it for a while. You can download it right there. It's free to use, and it's really, I think, the best tool for constructive sprite fonts. So once you have set and selected a font, so this one is aka Dylan Plain, which is free to use. I've set some of the font properties, like the color of the outline, etc., the size. You save it, and it does provide you with the sprite font itself, the graphic, but also a txt file, which when you open up, contains information such as the width for every character, and it's really interesting and critical to use. And as you can see, it's proposed in several formats, one of which is the JSON that you can copy and put directly into an array, and we are going to use it in our event sheet. It's important to remember. Or you can use the action set character width and copy which character to be displayed at which pixels. It's a bit more, it's longer to do. It works as well. Both techniques works in the end, so it's all good. I've also provided some sounds. So I've downloaded different sounds from the website freesounds.org. The sounds have different licenses. So whenever you search, for example, for target or shot, you have different sounds right there. And when you click a sound, you then have the license under which it's being distributed. As I've mentioned earlier, all the URLs for the sounds I've used are going to be into the comments of the kpix file. And this should be all we need to set up our project. So now we will be diving into the event sheet to make it a fully playable game. See you in part 2. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Don't hesitate to check out some of the other Construct2 Academy material. Thank you for watching.